this ASMR Photoshop compositing tutorial. I'm not going to be covering all of the tools Photoshop has to offer, like all of these over here. Instead, I'm going to be talking to you through my workflow with an educational slant. We are going to be making a composite picture, which is when you combine multiple pictures together to make a single interesting scene. I've gone ahead and pre-selected some images that we are going to use in this composition. I'm just going to show you them really quick. You can get these images from pixabay.com, where all of the images are free to use as you wish. I've already gone through and put these images where I think they should go. As you can see, we are going to be making a scene where a girl is going to be standing on a beach overlooking a sort of sci-fi scene. And in case you are curious, real fast, this is the image that we will be making. So, a good way to begin is to first determine where you want your model to be. I'm going to be placing her here. If you look at the bottom middle of the screen, you can see the buttons I'm pressing while we're creating this image. Control plus spacebar zooms in and out. We are going to focus our model in the center of the screen. Just a quick tip. You push this button to add a new layer. Okay, so now we are going to be adding a solid color. We could use these tools over here to select our model. We can even use the brush tool to extract our model. In situations like these, I prefer to use the pen tool, which is easier to use than a lot of people think. You just click, use the Alt or Option key, and drag the handles so as to create a divide between what you want and everything else. Okay, so I'm going to speed this up for you for your viewing pleasure. The next step is to right-click and click on the Make Selection option, and then click on the mask icon, which accomplishes the following. Next, we are going to be using the brush tool to mask out the edges and the areas that we missed. It's important to get the brush size correct for this process. It's as simple as applying black paint to the mask. If you look on the right in the Layers panel, you'll see the selected black square next to the image we are working on. This is called the mask, and black paint hides, while white paint reveals. Okay, so once again, I'm going to speed things up for your viewing pleasure. I'm really happy that you're here with me right now. I enjoy playing around with Photoshop, and it's my hope to spark an interest within you to try out this neat program. It's cool. This program allows you to play with your imagination in a way that nothing else can. Next, we are going to create a clipping mask, which is going to make it easier for us to blend the edges of our model. We are going to be painting on this clipping mask. You'll see. For example, we are going to paint the white out of her hair so that it looks like we did a perfect job masking her out. When the brush tool is selected, the Alt key brings up the dropper tool, which allows you to select colors that are already in the scene. Holding down the spacebar allows you to move the picture around for your convenience. Due to the steps that we'll be covering later in this tutorial, it's important that you understand that we aren't trying to achieve perfection here. All we are trying to do is remove the obvious problems, which is what we are doing now. This stage helps you to clearly see how having that bright, solid color as our background assists us with this painting process. Now we are going to move the model and the associated clipping mask into their own folder. This allows us to not only stay organized, it also opens up more options for the creative process. Okay, so when we bring in the beach scene, we can tell that the colors on our model and the colors on our landscape do not match up. We need to fix this. The easiest way to do this is to remove much of the color from the scene. A hue saturation layer is the right tool for this particular job. Alright, now we are just going to repeat the process with our model. We are going to apply the brightness contrast filter because I want this to be a sort of night scene. So now I'm just going to turn down the brightness and turn up the contrast. Next, we are going to add a solid color so that we can add a uniform color to the entire scene. You can choose any color you want. I'm going to pick some variation of blue. Then you change the blend mode to color, and then dial down the opacity. Okay, just go ahead and duplicate your model. Okay, so because of that action, we have to reattach the clipping masks. I'm going to show you next what you can do to an image in order to open up new sets of options to you. This is to rasterize the layer and then apply the layer mask. Okay, now we are going to add a levels adjustment layer. We did all of that so that we can easily create a shadow for our model. We just did those steps in case we needed to warp the image, but just tilting it, resizing it, and making it vertical seems to be good enough. So, what I usually try to do is get the feet aligned. Then, it's just a matter of using levels to make the image pitch black. Because shadows don't have hard edges, we are going to blur the edges using the box blur option. Then, it's just a simple process of adjusting the strength to make the shadow edges look realistic. Next, we adjust the opacity, which determines how transparent the image will be. The good thing about the sandy ground is that it makes it easy to blend her shoes in with the terrain. Next, we add additional darkness right where her feet meets the ground, so as to mimic how real shadows work, darkest at face. Then we just repeat the process we just performed. Let's take a look at our space scene real quick. Okay, looks good. Earth, yes, good. Stars are a bit off center. Let's fix that. Okay, now we're just going to go ahead and mask out the bottom portion of our stars, like so. We want to keep the cloud portion intact. As you can see, it's important to take the top layer into consideration because that is a layer that will be seen first. Remember that you can use opacity to reduce or strengthen an image's impact on the composite picture. Also, you only need to keep what you want, nothing more. Then we just move these stars down so that our planets and everything else can be made visible. Let's go ahead now and bring Jupiter in. Because the area around the planet is black, we are able to easily select the planet by using the Magic Wand tool. After selecting the image, you have to hold down the Alt or Option key in order to quickly mask out the stars. Okay, let's just see how that looks. The edges are obviously jagged, so we need to fix that. And so, we need to do the same steps that we did before when making the model's shadow. Then select the blur tool, get the brush size right, and then run the tool across the edges. So I'm going to try a hue saturation adjustment layer as a clipping mask and see how that works. It's just a matter of playing with the dials to see if we can get it close enough to how we want it. We are going to apply a mask, make it all black, and then paint on white on that mask to reveal our latest efforts. Paint in the planet's famous rings, and we are going to play with the opacity some. Next, we are going to play around with the blending modes for our nebula, just to see if we can find one that works for us. This is all a matter of personal taste. Then we just mask the whole thing out and paint in what we want to keep. The most important thing is to be sure to remove the hard outer edges. Okay, so we are going to be putting Earth here. Mars goes here, and we are going to go ahead and remove the black from the picture. Then it's rasterizing the layer, applying the layer mask, and then blurring the edges like before. Okay, so I'm going to add a levels adjustment layer to make this planet dark because I think that looks cool. It's not going to look like Mars anymore, but rather some sort of moon. Then it's just a matter of applying a hue saturation layer so as to match the moon's color up with the sky. Next, we are going to remove the black from the picture of Earth. Again, to do this, we just select the magic wand tool, then mask away the black, then rasterize the layer, apply the layer mask, and then use the blur tool around the edges so as to hide our quick selection process. Easy as that. Alright, now we are just going to get our images positioned properly. Let's get Earth where we want it. And let's go ahead and put this other nebula into a better position. When we apply the screen blending mode to the image, we remove the black elements from the picture. Then we just need to use the mask and brush tool to remove the image's hard edges. Now, we are just going to remove the bottom portion of Earth to make it look like it's emerging or something. Yeah, I like that. We're going to move the nebula a little bit here. We need to fix Jupiter. As we've built this scene, it's become apparent that Jupiter needs more work. So, we are going to play around with a hue saturation layer. It looks like it's way too bright. So, we need to match the color up better and try darkening it some. Yeah, this is better than it was at least. Alright, let's just see what it looks like if we brighten up these rings. That's better, but maybe it's too bright. Just for fun, let's try toying with the opacity. See if that does anything for us. That's how I want it, but the stars are coming through. Maybe if I remove the stars from the background. Let's just see. That's better, but the background is too bright. We need to darken that up some. Okay, well, we tried, didn't we? Let's try something else. What we are going to try next is a sort of secret ingredient for compositing. So it's a good thing that this happened, because I can teach you this trick. We are going to hide and blend using clouds. It'll be easier for matching purposes if we use the clouds that are already in our original scene. So let's just duplicate our original background, move it up to the top of the layers panel, turn down the opacity so that we can see what is beneath this top layer. And since we don't want it to be an exact replica, we are going to flip it and then mask it so that we can paint in what we want to keep. Let's try that and see if this works. Let's go ahead and paint in these clouds that are obviously too bright for now. Then we're going to need to do some blending here and there to try to make our efforts look less obvious. Again, we have to be careful to only include that which we want to keep and no more. Now, don't worry about this being too bright. We are going to darken everything up later on, which will do a lot for our blending goals. let's try to match up the exact same hue saturation layer that we used earlier in the project. We're going to need to do some tweaking here and there. Since we are going to darken this area up later, this will work for now. Okay, so we need a light source that is powerful enough to warrant that shadow we added to our model. Alright, so now we are going to add our vignette, which will emphasize our model and our emerging Earth. My concern now is that this will appear darker on this platform after the upload than it does on my home monitor. I hope additional darkness wasn't added to this scene. At this point, it really is just a matter of personal preference. You can add as much darkness as you think is beneficial to the scene you are trying to build. The main focus for this piece is just the model and Earth. Everything else is just icing on the cake. Something cool to remember is that this scene started out on a very bright and sunny day, and now it's like a dusk on an alien world. That's Photoshop for you. Lastly, we are just going to create a layer that is a combination of everything we've done thus far. You can do this by first creating a new layer, selecting that layer, and then pushing down Ctrl plus Alt plus Shift plus E, as you can see at the bottom middle of this video. Okay, so we're done. This is just one of the many things that you can do with Photoshop. If enough of you like this kind of content, I'll make more. Until next time.